this way in which the dominant discourse in the language of climate politics remains of the historical period that we're trying to get out of. And already there are sort of new ways of thinking about it, but mostly the solutions are still using the old frames of thinking and talking. So what my book is trying to do is kind of piece out how those ideas, those ideologies and ideological assumptions influence both fossil fuel disinformation, but also actual climate advocacy, and thereby sort of like keeps us stuck in this historical phase that we actually need now to transcend. So that's how it's similar. So in some sense, like the first book that I wrote, even though the topic is incredibly different, and I'm not really, using Shakespeare in my new book at all, the kind of historical thinking that I'm doing and the way that I'm tracing discourses between one domain that is sort of illegitimate, i.e. magic or fossil fuel rhetoric, and this new discourse, poetry or climate advocacy, is actually incredibly analogous. More and more journalists have started to connect the dots between the stories they're telling and the accelerating climate crisis, which is what you want to see, because of course the climate crisis is not a science or environment story. If global heating is the effect of human activities, that means that it's the context for every single story that every journalist is telling. Very often the network news programs will break news about extreme weather and literally repeat what the science has established is the connection between global heating and this particular extreme weather event, but they'll not even mention the words climate change. Like it's hardcore a form of climate denial. So that's still happening, but yes. Now we need to change the paradigm for objectivity to, do you look out the window and see that it's raining? You just report that it's raining. You do not you do not find
on the one hand, but on the other hand.
Exactly. And you do not sort of say, sources say rain makes us wet. I mean,
yes.
This is life and death. So they need to start acting like it. I think the most important thing that everyone can do right now is try to connect with people who know themselves to be concerned or even alarmed about the climate crisis, but haven't yet sort of committed to taking ongoing action in this domain. I think those people really need to be mobilized. Right. And mobilizing those people will actually make a difference. To be perfectly frank, I think that if you tell someone affluent that their discretionary consumption is burning the planet and they need to stop doing it immediately, you've lost them entirely. I think the best thing to do, if you're addressing those people, most of whom think they believe that the climate crisis is real, is talk about what you are doing, right? Just talk about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how good it is, how much better it is, and just leave it there. Okay, so that's how I would address people who are very affluent. Fundamentally, I think people just want a better life for their kids. They want a system that's fair, and they want just a little more money in their pocket so they can exhale. And that decarbonization will give them that. So I think we can target the consumption of the rich in movement building as part of this message of, consumption equality, climate justice, and making most people's lives better because we've decarbonized our economy. For me, at least personally, and maybe I'm just, a wacko, but for me, sort of really trying to take my attention away from the kind of climate crisis itself, hot weather, rainstorms, droughts, whatever it is, and really, and even, not focusing as much on the victims of the climate crisis as you would imagine, but really trying to keep my attention laser focused on the people who don't care and are blocking the solutions, helps me get up and get to work and stay in the fight every day. Because that, I feel hopeful that political change can happen, and that, justice from struggle can prevail. So, but to me, that kind of righteous outrage is actually what keeps me in it all the time.